Welcome to the Synergy Sessions, Aging Smarter in Silicon Valley. I'm your host, Tom Nelson, and I know firsthand as a family caregiver and part of the sandwich generation how tough it can be to take care of your aging parents while balancing your own life, career, and family. We'll bring you the experts and information necessary to help make your life a little bit easier and you a little bit smarter. Synergy Sessions is brought to you by Synergy Home Care, bringing you personalized in-home care and peace of mind to Silicon Valley families. I really do hope you enjoy the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Synergy Sessions, Aging Smarter in Silicon Valley. Today, I'm really excited to have on Martin Simenc from Home Safety Services. So Home Safety Services provides comprehensive solutions for accessibility and independence, and their mission is to enhance the peace of mind of our clients by providing the most professional home assessment and product installation services available, thereby making sure that they and their loved ones are safe at home. Martin, welcome to Synergy Sessions. So great to have you.
Well, thanks for having me, Tom.
When I was going through your brochure and I've known about your services and referred people to you for a while now, having somebody who's actually professional, because I've attempted these things with my own parents and making changes in their home. So
Yep.
I wanted to kind of first off take a step back and say, okay, I think this is really important information. So if you could let us know, your role and what you do, as well as like what your company does, kind of as an overview.
Okay, fair enough. Well, like you, Tom, at one point, I was taking care of my parents' needs, and that was part of the genesis of getting into the business in the first place. My dad had a stroke about 30 years ago now, and I made some modifications around the home for him, and he found them very helpful. And I realized that at the time, if I weren't there to do so, he may not have had them done or known where to turn to have them done.
Right.
So, and since then, boy, we've helped over 40,000 folks in similar situations with really practical and tangible home safety modifications. And, most of what we do is work one-on-one with the individuals and the families to find those things that really are the most needed changes for their particular situation, and then try to do them in the most cost-effective and aesthetic manner as possible.
That's fantastic. So who are your primary customers? Who are the people that typically give you a call and are seeking out your services? And what are the various services you provide? Arching as far as safety, but just, specifically.
Okay, fair enough. So in terms of who our customers are, well, not surprisingly, most of them are elderly and hoping to age in place, remain in their own homes. But what surprised me a little bit getting into the business is that very few of our customers, even to this day, are being proactive about their aging and doing these things on a preventive basis. Probably fully 80% of our clients are doing so on a reactive basis. They're being discharged from the hospital after a fall, or they're going to have hip or knee replacement, and they need some modifications as a result. So, but that being said, we're happy to work with folks either on a proactive basis or on a reactive basis. And in terms of the scope of what we do, it's everything from the very simple things such as installing grab bars in the shower or other toileting and safety modifications, up to stair railings, wheelchair ramps, stair lifts, whatever it takes to improve accessibility throughout the home and reduce the likelihood of falls.
Right. So when you were just mentioning that most people are not doing it proactively, and I'm imagining back in a previous life, so before I started my home care business, I was in health and fitness, and we would encounter these neighborhoods that were called NORCs. And I don't know if you've heard of them, that naturally occurring retirement communities.
Yes.
So these are people who never moved. So I would imagine, because I know I'm in the 50 plus, category now, you don't see yourself as old or aging, and you may think you're a senior, but this is the house they've lived in for many, many years. So they're not seeing it as dangerous or, as a threat. So I could see it's not until they actually have a fall or something happens where it's like, ooh, maybe the house hasn't changed, but I have.
Absolutely. And that's a tough mindset to overcome.
Yeah.
because especially in the generation that preceded both you and I, they're
Yeah.
fiercely independent. And,
Right.
and so there really is some inertia there to overcome because they've lived in that home for 40, 50, 60 years, and they've
Yes.
always done it this way. And yet there does come a time where objectively they might need to
Yep.
make some changes or modifications. And that's where,
Right.
as I'm sure you do in your business, working with the
Yeah.
adult children is often
Yes.
really effective at doing so. And so frequently it's the
Right.
adult child that brings us in, and we really
Right.
collaborate with them because, in all frankness, it's a good team approach. Because
Yep.
oftentimes the parent
Yep.
will listen to an outside expert a little differently than they
Yeah.
might listen to their adult child. And
Yes.
so we might say
Yes.
be recommending the same exact things, but coming in as an objective outside
Uh-huh.
expert, oftentimes it's really helpful in getting them over
Right.
the top to make some of those changes.
That makes a lot of sense. I've actually talked to a number of experts in the various categories and of assisting seniors aging at home, and that seems to be a common thread. Nobody wants to listen to their kids. And I was a family caregiver for years as well. And yeah, to get that doctor or professional to actually be the one that makes that recommendation. That's an amazing approach because it is effective. What's the biggest safety concerns that you run into for seniors? So, you know, what you were saying is, you're partnering with them, and I think the common thread is they want to stay, or most people want to stay at home as long as they can. You're providing and facilitating that opportunity for them to stay at home as long as they can. What are the biggest safety concerns that you're finding to keep them at home safe?
Okay. So, it does vary home to home, and it does vary depending upon an individual's conditions, of course. But
Mhm.
most typically, it's either challenges in the bathroom, with
Yeah.
toileting and bathing because of
Yep.
some of the hazards associated there and the
Yep.
frequency that those things take place, or
Yeah.
getting in and out of the home and around the home if there's any stairs or elevation changes. So, and
Right.
it's really those elevation changes, stairs in particular, that often result in the most serious and life changing falls. And so that's
Mhm.
really one of the areas that we pay a lot of attention to, even if it happens to be just a couple of steps leading down into the garage to be able to access the laundry.
Right.
Oftentimes, that area in the home is overlooked. The lighting's not
Mhm.
great, there's clutter, the stairs might be worn, and so as a result, there's a lot of falls that take place there, and there's oftentimes those are life-changing ones. So we'll help
Right.
folks to take a fresh look there. And oftentimes it's as easy as adding some stair railings on both sides
Yeah.
to really improve the safety there.
Right. As you were just saying that, it just reminded me of a client I had. She was 97 years old, and to get into her garage, it was one of those garage doors off the kitchen down into
Yep.
the attached garage. She literally attached a belt to her refrigerator and would rappel herself down into the garage. And it could have just been as easily as putting a stair rail, and it was amazing. I mean, she was so, the ingenuity
Absolutely. That
to do
fierce
everything possible
independence.
so she could just do it herself. That was amazing. So I guess the obvious other side of this is, what is the risk of, like, neglecting some of these things?
Yeah, so what we're trying to avoid is that downward spiral of events that often takes place after a
Yeah.
serious fall. And I
Right.
think in all our families we've seen that
Mhm.
where there's a fall and then there's a hip fracture and then the quality of life just degrades, and then there's a subsequent
Mhm.
fall, and the outcome was usually not good thereafter. We
Right.
really want to try to avoid that first fall, if at all possible, by preventing it with some of
Mhm.
the practical modifications. But if that
Yeah.
first fall has already occurred, let's prevent the
Yeah.
next one.
Right.
And, as we're doing so, we're trying to make the home safer, not only for that individual, but for the caregivers as well. And whether that's a
Mhm.
paid caregiver or whether that's, the live in spouse or adult
Right.
child, the last
Right.
thing that we want to have happen is go from one patient to two patient in
Right.
the home. And oftentimes that's the case that happens when someone's straining to assist someone on and off the toilet, or up and
Yeah.
down a ramp that's too steep, or catching them from falling as they're walking down the hallway. So there really is this kind of holistic approach to really trying to create, the best environment we can, not only
Yeah.
for the aging individual, but for
Mhm.
the family and the caregivers as well.
Right. That's a great point. I wasn't even thinking about that. It's kind of like the lifeguard going out to say, it's like they're gonna pull them down too, you
Yeah,
have to. I never really thought about that. I'm glad I asked that question because, the other point you made is really true. That is, and I've seen personally with my parents as well as like many of my clients that if you can prevent that fall, you are really improving the quality of life because the opposite is that fall is the beginning of that downward spiral, especially if it's severe. Hopefully, they have one that's if they haven't made a change and they need a personal episode to really trigger them, that it's a minor fall to get them thinking about that. But it really is true. So people out there listening, either yourself or for your folks, the prevention of this really is critical because the aftermath is sometimes really, really bad. One of the things you mentioned, or actually I read, is in your home assessment, a comprehensive home assessment. So,
mhm,
what does that look like? When I put my railing on for my parents' house and everything like that, I didn't go through and do a full assessment. Years ago when I did that,
yeah,
I might take a different approach now that I'm in this industry, but
yeah.
what does that comprehensive assessment look like? What can people expect?
Great question, and thanks for asking. So, in terms of our home assessments, we've learned through the years generally what the most common needs are. Again, we've helped over 40,000 folks, and so we've had a lot of these conversations.
Mhm,
We've walked through, 40,000 plus homes.
mhm,
And so we've got just this vast knowledge of resource and experience that we bring to the
mhm.
table. But frankly, the first thing that we do when we walk in the door is really ask the clients and the family, what's going on? Where
Yeah,
are you having issues? Have you had any falls? What's
yeah.
becoming more difficult for you? Any things that
Mhm,
you're not doing anymore that you used to do
uh-huh,
because you're afraid of falling? And that
right.
just supplements all of the clinical knowledge and historical knowledge that we have in
Mhm,
terms of where falls occur and how they occur, and it helps us customize those solutions to the individual. So
mhm,
we take all that information and then we'll go room by
mhm.
room with, again,
Okay.
a really extreme focus on bathrooms and elevation changes. But then
Mhm,
secondary focus anywhere a person is transferring from one position to another is oftentimes an area of potential falls. So that's in and out
mhm,
of bed, up and down off of chairs or other couches or other seating arrangements. Any change
mhm.
of position is something that we're going to look at in terms of, you know, how well suited the area and equipment is relative to the individual's, physical capability at the time.
What about other kind of non-modification? I mean, I would imagine you go in and there's ruffled up carpets or cords or I mean, do you make general recommendations on how to improve the safety of the home as well?
Absolutely, and you're right to recognize, Tom, that sometimes those are as important or even more important than some of the physical modifications.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's the throw rugs that are curling
Yeah,
at the edges or slippery. It's clutter, either in hallways or especially on stairs. Any of those practical housekeeping things, cords,
mhm,
running across walkways or under throw rugs, just
right.
tight spaces without adequate clearance. All of
Yeah,
those things can contribute to falls
yeah,
equally as much as, a different type of hazard. And they're so
right.
simple to remedy in most cases.
Yeah. And sometimes it just becomes part of the wallpaper. People are so used to seeing
Yep.
that in their home. That's just how it's been for years and years and years, and you don't even see it as a hazard or not even knowing the benefit would help. As you mentioned, um, maybe they've just adapted the way they do things
Mhm.
because their fear of falling, like that client I talked about where she's rappelling down with the belt. Because I remember when we put in grab bars for my mom in the shower because she had to mention she was having some issues, even though my dad was in pretty good shape at the time. He's like, "Hey, this is great. I can hold on to this while I'm taking a shower." And you don't even realize
Yeah.
the benefit until it's right there. And it's like, something that they weren't even considering. That's pretty amazing.
Well, and that's such a consistent experience that we have
Yeah.
is once
Yeah.
we
Once
make
you
some of
give in
those
to let
subtle
people
things.
help you.
Oh my gosh. And the typical response, and not only with the grab bars, but things like stair lifts too, that people
Yeah.
will resist for years.
Yeah.
And as soon as it's done, their reaction is, I should
Yeah.
have done this years ago. You know,
Yes.
I can totally relate.
Right. Well, one of the things too, and we've had like I've had on other guests I've had on here. So when people have money out of pocket, it's easy to have a lot of different resources and things like that.
Mhm.
What are the different ways that people pay for your service? Obviously, if they have money in the bank to be able to pay you directly for your services, are there other different types of ways that they can pay for your services?
Yeah, we're really fortunate here in Northern California that there are lots of resources. But
Mhm.
before I go too far down that path, the other
Yeah.
good news is that a lot of this stuff doesn't cost a lot of money.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
doesn't take tens of thousands of dollars usually to make some
Mhm.
really significant modifications in the home.
Yeah.
So, a lot of folks are hesitant to pay for anything or anything out of
Yeah.
pocket, so we
Sure.
really encourage them to kind of hear us out. And
Yeah.
oftentimes, for a few $100s, you can make some real life
Yeah.
changing modifications. But that being said, again, lots of resources here,
Mhm.
particularly in Northern California, depending upon your situation. Folks that
Mhm.
are veterans, the VA has a wonderful benefit for
Mm.
military veterans, for vets and their spouses for home modifications. And so they generously pay for loads of modifications. There's loads of
Yeah.
community organizations that vary from county by county that
Mhm.
also cover some of these services. And then for folks that are on the lower income side, even if there's not a community agency available, if they're on Medi-Cal now,
Mhm.
since last year to or the start of 2023,
Yeah.
there's a CalAIM program that is generously paying for a lot of modifications as well.
Okay.
So if folks don't have the wherewithal to pay for them, we can help guide
Yeah.
them to some of those resources to help either mitigate or cover the cost.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to say that that was expensive, but some
Oh,
people, if you are on that lower economic levels,
mhm.
anything is sometimes out of reach, and I wanna make sure that we're addressing for people of all income levels. Everybody's got the need, or if they have the need, we wanna be able to give them access to that.
Absolutely. Nope. We often say that, falls don't discriminate, by economic class. That's for sure.
Right.
So, and that just anecdotally, Tom, it's
Yeah.
interesting, we probably do more work and modifications for the lower end of the income bracket than we do for the higher end of the income bracket, ironically.
Yeah.
So, yes, and the good news is there's funding out there to
Yeah.
help do that.
No, that's great. So I guess that goes into another question I had is what is the demand for your services? I mean, hopefully, us promoting your services will get people
Uh,
thinking about, because I would imagine a lot of people aren't even thinking about it until they have a fall or something like you're talking about. But, is the demand out there? Are you able to meet that demand? Are there a lot of people, needing this service right now from your estimation?
Yeah. So again, really good question. And
Mhm,
28 years ago when we started the business,
mhm.
the demand was pretty modest for a lot of years, frankly, just
Yeah,
because of the consumer awareness or
yeah.
lack of consumer awareness that there were
Mhm,
expert professional resources out there to help with this specific niche. So the
right.
good news is that has dramatically changed, and now
Mhm,
not only the public funding and private funding has increased dramatically, but the consumer
mhm,
awareness and the awareness within the medical community of the
mhm,
value and the return on investment that's associated with home modifications has
mhm.
increased exponentially. As from our business perspective, our demand is high. We're growing. We're
Okay.
trying to add the
Yeah,
scale to add staff to
yeah.
address the growing demand here.
All right. That's great. What would you say is so first of all, we've established it's important to get ahead of a fall. And if you've had one, get your home adapted and modified to make sure you're safe. But what would you say is the biggest advantage or difference working with a professional home modification specialist like yourself, or somebody just A, doing it themselves, or B, hiring just a handyman? off of Craigslist or whatever? What are the main differences that you would say?
Good. So a lot of differences there, Tom. And again, thanks
Yeah.
for asking this
Mhm,
one. From the get-go for us, we wanted to bend over backwards to be the most
mhm,
credible provider available. And so from
mhm.
day one, we became licensed general contractor, and then we pursued
Okay.
each and every professional designation that's out there that's available in this space. And so we're certified environmental access consultants, we're
Mhm,
CAP certified, but we've even taken it one step further for our company, and we've become accredited by the Joint Commission. And that's a
mm,
really important certification that basically holds us to the same patient safety standards as hospitals
mhm.
and healthcare providers. So that really makes us really unique
Wow.
in this space. But that being
Sure.
said, besides being, sorry, a commercial
Mhm.
for us, it's really
Yeah.
important to work with a professional in this space, whether it's us or one
Mhm.
of our peer companies,
Yep.
because of the unique and specific knowledge that we have. And that specific knowledge comes in making sure that we're providing the exact right solutions for the individual. The solutions for home modifications to enable someone to be more independent at home are not cookie cutter, and they're not the
Right.
same for every individual or the same for every home. And so it's really important that you've worked with someone, one, that's got the credentials and the technical background, but two, hopefully loads and loads of experience in working not only with a wide range of physical conditions and cognitive conditions that individuals might
Mhm.
have, but a wide range of home configurations, which really dictate what solutions may and may not work for a given situation.
And I would imagine the sooner somebody knows about that they may need, so when's the best time for someone to call you? Probably not the day before they're getting discharged from the hospital, but what's a good time frame? Because especially, with all of the expertise, you're gonna wanna go in and kinda think through the design and kinda come up with the solution with the family. So, what's the best approach for somebody? How far out to make sure they can, A, get you booked and give you enough time to really put the plan together?
So for us, fortunately, the way we've built our model, we can be very responsive because we want to
Okay.
be able to respond to those cases where mom's getting discharged tomorrow and we need a
Mhm.
solution. Most of the
Right.
time, we can jump through the hoop and get somebody out to install grab
Okay.
bars, oftentimes
Yep.
install ramps or even lifts within hours or
Mhm.
days of being requested
Wow.
to. So the
Mhm.
reality is we need to be that responsive. And so we've
Yeah.
built a lot into our model to be able to do so. In
Mhm.
general, though, when's the right time to do it? Well, again, it's great to do some things proactively and preemptively.
Mhm. Yeah.
You and I should both have grab bars in our showers, right?
Yeah.
But beyond that, then we should
Yeah.
hopefully be a little proactive. And, you know, maybe when we reach that 65th birthday, we take another
Mhm.
step and we look to make sure we
Yep.
got stair railings every place on every set of stairs. And then if there's any changes in our conditions as we
Mhm.
progress, then you know what? Let's reassess. And now let's assess for, oh, I'm having knee replacement. How's that going to change
Yeah.
things? Oh, my spouse got, diagnosed with Parkinson's. What's the future going
Mhm.
to look like there? Let's
Right.
try to be proactive and make some preemptive modifications that will
Right.
address those changes as we go through. My
Right.
point being is that it's generally shouldn't just be a one-time engagement.
Yeah.
This should be a progressive, gradual engagement to help make sure that
Yeah.
we've got the appropriate fixtures in place when we need them.
Right. Yeah. So you don't need the full modification all at once. You're progressing as what's appropriate for the time. I just had somebody on the other day about exercise and aging. And even if you don't have a knee replacement or Parkinson's or these, there are just neurological changes that happens as you get older and your ability to right yourself,
Yeah,
your balance, all those things, even if you're in excellent health, changes. And again, you don't know it until you've, timbered over.
yeah,
So not even waiting until you're having a health situation because just natural aging is, something that puts you at risk for a fall. So you just made me think, okay, I got to get that grab bar in my shower.
I know a guy.
Especially that. Yeah. Well, I mean, especially if you have a tub shower and those things where you're
Yeah.
stepping over and it's slick on the bottom. And I mean, it's different as you're getting older. Um, Gosh, we covered a lot of ground. Martin, is there anything that we haven't talked about yet about this topic or your company or anything else that, people should know about?
Well, the one area that we haven't really covered is about temporary solutions, because a lot of
Okay.
times folks will have a need for a solution, but it's not a permanent need.
Right.
Some parent is coming to stay with you for an extended period of time, or perhaps you're having that knee replacement, but then
Hmm.
thereafter, you know, you'd like to have the home return to normal. So,
Yeah.
anyways, the good news is that there are oftentimes temporary solutions for
Okay.
accessibility in particular that are available and cost effective, including full spectrum of ramping to get in and out or
Hmm.
around a home or a property, and or motorized lifts as well. And, if you're non-weight bearing for a certain period of time, having a temporary ramp or a temporary lift can restore that accessibility for the
Yeah.
time being.
Oh, that's really great to know because I think that happens for a lot of people because you get through these different stages, the hip replacements, the knee replacements, all those things, and to know that you can just have it for a little bit of time and then maybe later in life you get the permanent solution. But that's good to know they don't have to suffer through their rehab and not get around as well as they could. And you have a temporary solution. That's fantastic. Well, in the show notes, we'll have all the different ways that folks can contact you, Martin, as well, your phone number and your email and the website. And we'll make sure that if somebody's interested or they can contact you for their unique situation, because we kind of hit all the highlights, but I'm sure there's so many very specific things that people have in their situation to be able to talk through with you. But I want to thank you so much for being on Synergy Sessions today. And if you have a need for a home modification, whether you think you need it or not, prevention is what we've heard, and don't wait for that first fall. But again, thanks, Martin. I really appreciate you coming on today.
Oh, super fun. Thanks, Tom.
Okay. Cool. And thanks, everybody. Thanks again for being a viewer on the Synergy Sessions, Aging Smarter in Silicon Valley. Take care. Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Synergy Sessions. We know you have a lot on your plate, so we really appreciate you spending the time with us today. If you found the information in this episode useful, please reach out to the guest or the resources in the show notes. I know they would appreciate it and would love to help. Also, if you have an idea for a future episode, please reach out to us on Instagram or Facebook or email us and let us know. We'd love to hear from you and provide information that's useful. Lastly, please remember, you don't have to do this alone.